Hello there everybody, this is Kristen, welcome back to Yokai Yochi Tarot, and it is deck collection season! The most wonderful time of the year. These are my favorite videos to watch. I think it's purely because I am nosy. I just love seeing what everybody has, how collections have changed, if it's a channel I've been watching for a while. I don't know, I just think it's the most fun, and this is my first year doing one. So, I'm very excited. How I am breaking this up, because I am breaking this up into a few videos, just so none of them get too long for me to do at once. I am breaking these up into seasons. So, it's very arbitrary. I'm purely doing this because that is just what made sense in my brain. Since I work with my decks very seasonally, I thought it would be fun. But again, some of these I don't necessarily work with seasonally. I'll work with them whenever. So it just was me looking at it and saying, that feels like spring, so it's going in spring. So I'm not gonna go through and treat this like a seasons video per se of like, you know, talking extensively about why I think this fits into a certain season. This was just to break it up, and I thought it would kind of be fun this way. So anyhow, I think we should just get into it because we are starting with what is now our current season, because I think I will be posting this on Yule, so happy Yule everybody, or happy winter solstice, however you like to see it. So officially winter, so of course we're going to start with the winter category. And today we're going to do the tarot decks. The next video will be Oracle. This one is definitely going to be 2 videos. I don't know if every season will be, but winter was the heaviest category. Is there anything else I want to explain here? Oh, okay. So, other thing we will be doing while we're going through these decks is sort of following in line with Lisa Papez's videos, her collection of videos. Oh my gosh, I could not remember the word collection for a second. She's been going through and taking this as an opportunity as well to kind of see if there's any decks that maybe she's not fully going to, you know, hold on to long term, or is kind of questioning whether they belong in her collection, putting them into a maybe bin. They kind of, you know, look at them, ponder about them, maybe move them along, and I'm going to be doing that as well. Not in any sort of, you know, that I am feeling anxiety or shame in any certain way about, you know, the number of decks or anything. I just kind of feel in my bones. Like there are some that I'm not really connecting with and can move along. And honestly, with my deck collecting, that's half the fun for me, is trying out new decks and moving along the ones that just don't really work for me. So, that'll be the kind of double purpose of these videos, which I'm very excited about. Anyway, let's get into it now. Enough talking, right? Right. To start off, we are going to look at, actually, my newest deck here, the Nicoletta Tarot. No, did I say that? Nicoletta Ceccoli Tarot, I believe is how you say that. So this is the mini version. Let's zoom ourselves in, why don't we? Slowly. Now, I got this deck in just yesterday, and I mean, these backs, so wintry, right? I think so. And this is one I've been looking at for a while. I don't really know what was kind of giving me pause about it. I wasn't sure if it was one I would really connect with, but boy oh boy, already was I wrong. This, I think, is one of the first decks that I have just done an initial flip through for myself with and felt some kind of connection to every single image. Like, not even an exaggeration, every single image. I'm very excited to start working with this one. Also loving the mini size. This is my first Lo Scarabeo mini. I usually tend to stay away from mini decks because I don't often use them. but these are just so dang cute. The boxes are so much fun. I'm obsessed. I'm really, and I don't know, I feel like this one, it makes sense as a mini to me because it's like these little doll-like characters. I don't know, it makes sense in my brain. And I love the idea of doing bigger spreads with this deck as well. So that is the Nicoletta Ceccoli Tarot. Very excited to start working with that one. Okay, now there's no particular order here. I've just got a pile of decks next to me. So next we are looking at the Yokai Yochi Tarot, which I have in a bag because is anybody else experiencing this where the box is so nicely pressure fitted that, ooh, we gotta zoom back out. Ooh, wrong way. I can't get it open. Every time I go to open it, it takes me like 20 minutes. So as much as I loved the box, I just had to put it in a bag because I don't know what was going on, but I have really been enjoying this deck. This is another one that is newer in my collection, and it is entirely based around Japanese folklore, and it is just so interesting. The guidebook is really just gives you maybe like a sentence or so, but I love that that sentence is used to tell you about the character in the image. This is one of my favorites. I think that is such an interesting card, but I've really been loving getting to know this deck. It's one of the ones that in my latest video of deck reconnection, this is one that I really want to spend time with in 2023. Really get to know these characters and these cards. I just think it is a fabulous deck. I don't know, I got this in that latest pre-order the artist did. I'm not too sure if it is available now. I've not really looked into that. But I am going to make an effort this time to put links where I can find them in the description below. And if I haven't, don't hesitate to remind me, because it's just that, you know, things leave my brain as soon as they enter. But anyway, this is the Yokai Yochi Tarot, and speaking of how many places my brain goes at once, I just realized that I'm missing a deck in this pile. So I'm gonna go grab it, because otherwise I will entirely forget. So BRB. Okay, I'm back. And I guess now that it's in my hands, we might as well just take a look at it. It is the Future Ancestors Tarot. This one, actually, I could have put in that deck reconnect as well, because while I have done a good amount of readings with this deck, it's one that I feel like I could really bond with if I just spent some extensive time with it, and I think it does feel pretty wintry to me, so maybe that's why I've not reached for it totally. I don't know, it's really a different deck. It has such a unique space in my collection. I don't know that I totally... This one connects to me, not in an ancestor way of feeling like it relates to my direct lineage. It feels like a broader idea of ancestor to me, which I think is really interesting. But I love the artwork on this one. I actually really do like the pared down colors. I like that we still get some color. It feels very purposeful, which I think is so interesting. I mean, the cardstock on this deck is amazing as well. It's a really nice linen. I know the creator just came out with a full guidebook, and I am thinking of ordering that soon, but I wanted to wait until I was really working with the deck more before I did so. And is that all I have to say? I think so. It's a really awesome deck. I really have enjoyed reading with it so far, and yeah, this is another one I really want to get to know in the next year. So that is the Future Ancestors Tarot. Okay, next we've got the Witchfolk Tarot. I really enjoy this deck. It entirely goes its own direction. This is the second edition printing. Part of me wishes that I was able to get the first edition because it is on a linen cardstock, but that is all right. I do love this deck as well. I love, again, that folk magic feel to it. In the wintertime, that is something I really like to lean into. And it has given such interesting readings. It's one that I do really rely on the guidebook for because it just goes in its own direction. And I believe we're following the story of this one witch and kind of the characters that surround her life, which is also really interesting, but it's very different. It's not one I would say is for beginners at all, unless the way they, the way that they see these cards is just, I don't know. Who am I to say? But yeah, I've really been enjoying this deck. I don't know. I love the directions it goes, and so it's not one, though, that I can kind of just break out and read with just yet. It's, again, definitely a guidebook use kind of deck for me, which is totally fine. I've really loved the readings I've gotten from this one. So that is the Witch Folk Tarot and/or Folk Witch Tarot? I don't know. It's one of those where it just has two different names on it for whatever reason. Alright, next we've got the Little Monsters Tarot, which I somehow totally lucked out in finding on Facebook Marketplace. No. Yes? One of the Facebook groups, so randomly, for what seemed to me like the price the person initially bought it for, which at the time I did not know that this was out of print. I had never really seen it before, but I'm glad I'm really glad that I ended up taking the chance on this one, because I was a little unsure because of the black and white artwork. I usually am one to want more color in my decks, but I've really been loving this one. And you can still get the full guidebook on Amazon, actually, and I really do recommend it, whether you have this deck or not. I think that the artist's ideas behind these cards is just really interesting, and I do really like that how she writes is really putting emphasis on these characters, which I feel like does this deck a lot of justice, you know? It's just kind of, I don't know, it's quirky. It's kind of cute in a weird kind of way, which I love. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I even just like flipping through it. But I really love the readings that I get from this one. And the cardstock is really interesting. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just different. But that is the Little Monsters Tarot. Alrighty, we are rolling along here. Next up, my beloved Forest of Enchantment in my beautiful bag made by Sandy at Exploring Tarot. Oh my gosh, the thoughts I have on this deck, all just positive, amazing, beautiful, gorgeous, wonderful. What other adjectives can I get there? Nope, that's the end of my list. I just think this deck is so special. I don't know, it's just one that I have bonded with, honestly, like no other. And I know. Historically, I have always said Northern Animal is like my deck. That is the #1 deck. And not to say, I still love that one. It still has a top spot, but I don't know. I think I may have actually connected with this one a little bit more the northern animal. There's just something about the artwork that I love. I love the whole journey we're taken on with this white stag through the major arcana. That's a really important symbol for me, the white stag. I just love the magic in this deck. The dragons and the fairies and animals. It's just so good. And the mixing of people and animals and fairies, because that's kind of the way in which I try to see my own world. And I just think this is so, so well done. Look at that strength card. Isn't that so good? I love this Six of Cups too. It's just a really special deck. Highly recommend. Oh, this is my favorite Four of Swords of all time. So that is the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. Okay, now we've got the Tarot of the Moon Garden. Now this is one that even though I don't use it much, it is staying because it just keeps finding its way back to me. I had never really been interested in this deck, but it came up in a trade or something, and it was, what edition is this? 1994. I think it was also a 1994 edition, and so I figured I would just try it out. The deck I was trading was one that the other person was really looking for, so we just went for it. But I ended up rehoming that one after a bit. I liked it, it's just I wasn't reaching for it. And then my friend Erin, who owns Little Shop of Light and Love, which is a crystal shop, which is one of my favorites online, said she got a deck from a friend, or I don't know, it was this whole long thing of like her friend just was like given this deck by one of her friends and she didn't really want it, and Erin saw it and immediately was like, oh, Krista needs to have this, so she sent it to me. And it's the same 1994 edition, not the same exact, but you know what I mean. And it's just in this really beat up box, which, I don't know, just makes me love it even more for some reason. But I feel like this is one that it's just gonna keep finding its way back to me and just keep showing up in more and more of a disheveled form. So she stays, and I do really like this deck. Even if it's one that I, might not use all the time, I think it could be really cool to use for moon readings. So I think I'm gonna give that a try. But yeah, I love the colors. I think the borders are kind of fun. I love that we get dragons and fairies, which I don't think I really even noticed the first time around. Oh, okay, I guess we were mixing that card in. Yeah, I really like this one. That is the Tarot of the Moon Garden. Okay, what do we want to look at next? Let's do this one. The Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot. I am so happy I got on this train. It is such a special deck. And I have really, really been loving to use it this month. It's become a real fast favorite for me. It's just really holds this unique energy to it. I love that we get that goddess energy, but a non-specific goddess energy. So you can kind of insert any sort of figure you want to, if you want, but you don't really have to. But I really do like having some decks that feel like this pure kind of feminine energy. Just with some of the things that I tend to work with, that really works for me. And I just love the collage. I think the art is so beautiful. I know all of these are probably stars, but it makes me think of snow, which I really, really like. And I just think this deck is so beautiful. I have the mass market edition, which I really enjoy. Not that I know the other one, but I think it's nice. Yeah, this is a really special one. I love that the magician is the witch too. I think it's so cool. The renaming of some of the major arcana, I love. So that is the Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot. Now we are going to take a pause because I want some coffee. Okay, next up we've got the Dark Days Tarot. Now this one is relatively new to me as well. More in the sense of I've just not spent too much time with it. But it is a really interesting deck. I like the square size of it. I think that is just fun. But this is another one that feels really unique in my collection. And this is one that for sure leans into that kind of shadow work area with the way the guidebook is written, and I feel like with these images. And so far that is the way I've used it, and I've really, really enjoyed that. There is something about this artwork that I really like, which I wasn't really sure I would. But this one I love to pair with the Song of the Grandmother's Oracle. I happened to get those two decks in on the same day, as it goes. And so I tried them together just because I opened them at the same time, and they worked so well together. So I am excited to keep getting to know this one. There is just something about it that really interests me. I don't know if ultimately it's one that will stay long term, but for right now, I'm enjoying it, and that's okay. So, yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know, I like the square. I think it's kind of fun every once in a while to have a different shape card, but that is the Dark Days Tarot. And it does have a good guidebook with it. I do really like the one that comes with it. Okay. Next, we've got the Yokai Tarot, which I have been loving. This is another one I really plan to intentionally spend some extra time with, especially with the guidebook. But I love these characters. My feelings on it really echo what a lot of people have said about it, in that these figures they feel familiar. It feels like I know them. Like right out of the box, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? There's this sense of like nostalgia and familiarity that I don't really feel like I've experienced with any other deck. It's very cool. So I've really, really been enjoying this one. The guidebook is so awesome. I really like how the creator goes into the court cards especially. It's like one of those things where I feel like court cards I've read about and it's been explained to me in so many different ways, and sometimes it just takes that one right way that makes sense for you to be like, oh my gosh, of course, now everything makes sense. And that's what I feel like I've gotten from this deck. This Ten of Cups card so intensely stalked me from this deck. The first, like, 5 or 6 pulls, I got that one every single time. Isn't that crazy? It's so weird when stuff like that happens. But yeah, I've really been enjoying getting to know this one. That is the Yokai Tarot. So fun to shuffle as well. I say that every time, but like, it really is. Okay. Next, we've got the Wildwood Tarot. Now this one, I have trimmed. I took off these 3 borders. But this is such a long time favorite. I have been working through the Year in the Wildwood this year, and I definitely plan to do it again next year. It is such a cool multi-purpose deck. I love that we've got this full journey to go on with it throughout the year, but also just to use it as, you know, for just any tarot reading, it works so well. I am considering actually getting a second copy of this deck because I do like to use it in so many different ways. This is such a first world me problem, but the cards that are associated with, you know, the certain times of year that I'm working on that year in the Wildwood with, I like to keep out on my altar. So I find that I don't lean towards using this deck for regular readings as much as I would, purely because I would have to take those cards off and then find them again once I was done with the reading. So I don't know, we'll see. I'm waiting for one to show up that I can get that is someone else rehoming it, a used deck. I don't think I need to go and buy a brand new Wildwood just for that purpose, but if one happens to show up, or say someone, I don't know, just wants to part with the cards or something, I have no idea. Whatever which way, I would definitely want to get a second copy, because I do think I would really use this deck so much more for readings as well if there wasn't just that little little thing keeping me from doing it. I know, sounds so silly, but it's a thing in my brain. So that is the Wildwood Tarot. Such a favorite. Oh, we are zooming! Awesome! Next up we have the aforementioned, oh my gosh, Northern Animal Tarot. What? That was weird. That was like a short circuit. Oh, I have to sniff this one every time I take it out because it just smells so amazing. It smells like crayons. Credit to Jess from Jess Reads Cards for that description. But, I mean, we all know my feelings on this deck. I shouldn't say that. You know, maybe this is your first time here, or your second time here. Or you click on my videos and just have it as background noise. I get that. I get that life. Anyway, this is a favorite, a longtime favorite. I've had it for years now. I still will say that it feels like my most, in the realm of my tarot decks purely, feels like my most prized possession of sorts. Because I am so bonded to this specific copy. It's not a version you can get anymore. The creator, Linda Ritter, I want to say? Wilder Hearts Studio is coming out with a 3rd edition soon that I definitely want to get my hands on, because if you have heard me talk about this deck, you know for me it is like almost all about the extra cards that we get in this. So this is one of them. I pull an extra card from this deck every reading I do, without fail. I've gotten to know those extra cards so incredibly well. And in the 3rd edition, there's a fairy card. I know, that might be silly to get it just for one card, but I mean, for a deck that is such a favorite, why not, you know? Why not? I think it'd be really cool to have it in 2 different forms as well, and the 3rd edition is going to be regular tarot size. This is a little over tarot size, so I think that'll be fun as well. But anyway, that has not come out yet, so that we shall see, but I love this one. I love the linen cardstock on this 1st edition. And just the journey we've been on with this deck. Look at that Hermit card. It's so good. I would also like to have, again, a version in the recoloring that the artist did for the 2nd edition. I did have the 2nd edition, but I gifted that one to my friend Rachel because I just felt like she needed Northern Animal in her life, you know? But I do think it would be cool to have that recoloring again because it was so beautiful. So, anyway, that's enough on that. That is the Northern Animal Tarot. And I would follow along on the Northern Animal Instagram if you are interested in getting updates on that 3rd edition. I haven't seen anything new lately, but that seems to be where it gets posted. Next, we've got the Samot Tarot, which is, oh my gosh, one of my first ever repurchases. I have found lately that most of my deck purchases over the last few months have been repurchases, which I think is so interesting. I think I went through a period of time where I was decluttering decks and not taking into account how I work with decks in terms of that I really do work with them seasonally. So, for example, if I went and tried to do a declutter in the summer, any of the decks in this category, I know now, like, just don't touch them. Don't touch them, because you're not in the mood to necessarily read with some of these right now. Make that decision in the winter when they feel seasonally appropriate. But also, I noticed that if I was struggling with any sort of anxiety or just general ADHD overwhelm, I would kind of almost take that out a little bit on my decks, because, you know, that's something you can control. In times when it feels like you need something to control. So it was kind of that double thing of that led me to doing a lot of deck decluttering, and a lot of the ones that I rehomed during that time, I've realized now, like, oh my gosh, no, I really think those would add a lot to my practice. Or, you know, maybe at the time I wasn't there yet, and now I am. Many different reasons going on here. But this is one that I actually did. I rehomed and brought it back in. I found it used. That's usually my goal, is if it's one that I'm repurchasing, we try and find it used. But I love this one. These images were all taken very close to my hometown, so it feels so cool to have that connection as well. And it's a beautiful deck. I love this one, especially with the Death Doula Oracle. They just speak to each other so well. And I don't know, there's something so cool about this deck and so different. This is actually one that I use to work with with Mary energy, Black Madonna energy. For me, they kind of come through one and the same, but she tends to really come through with this deck, which is really cool. Anyway, long explanation, but that's the Samot Tarot. Love that. Okay, now we've got the Anima Mundi Tarot. I love this one. I think this is must be a first edition of it, because I've got some glittery gilding going on, and I don't think that is the case anymore. I think I've gotten it, yeah. It's not coming off on my hands anymore. I think the gilding got changed to a more, like, standard, like, shiny gold, where it's not, like, the glitter that comes off. But that is the version that I have. But it didn't take long for it to stop shedding on me. Anyway, that's really besides the point, isn't it? I love this deck. It took me a long time, I feel like, to build up to getting this one, because it does have some Pippish minors, which I think for a while just was not something I was interested in. But now is really, like, I really, really enjoy working with pips, actually. Especially in this kind of way where it really does still feel like they're illustrated. I mean, they are. That's probably because they are. Anyway, it's just, this deck is so beautiful, and it feels like, this one really does feel like my winter animal deck, but also I think it'll be really cool, you know, other seasons to have it as like almost like a nighttime animal energy. It's just got a darker animal energy to it without being too dark. I did for a bit have the Goliath Tarot, which is so beautiful, but I think that one was just a bit intense for me in some ways, where it was like, you know, for me there's definitely a difference between intense in a way where it's like, ooh, I need to look into that, and intense in ways where it's like, okay, this is just upsetting me, you know, for like really no reason. Not to knock that deck at all, it's so beautiful, and I think it's so cool the work that some people can do with it. Just wasn't for me. And I feel like this one fills that slot of what I was looking for from it. I love that sun. Ugh, so pretty. Look at the raccoon, and I love the animals we see in it. It's so, so beautiful. And also learning that all of these are, I believe, oil paintings? I don't know. Just adds such a cool energy to it. So that is the Anima Mundi Tarot. Did I have a book? It did. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna keep, I've got like a pile of decks obviously next to me. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep them out until I make a list of all of those decks and put links to them. That's the goal. Okay. Next we've got the Terra Volatile. Now, I don't know. This is like the only one I feel like in this winter tarot deck category that I'm kind of like, nah, I don't know how we're doing. I think this deck is so beautiful, so well done, so interesting. I just don't know if this kind of style of almost like a high art kind of deck is for me, but I don't know. But I think there is something really interesting about it. I think what I need to do, this is what I've been thinking about. So I have mixed in the extra suit, the vessel suit, which I love the concept of. I think it's really so interesting, but I think right now it is a little bit too much for me, and I think what stops me from using the deck, again, these things sound silly, but for an ADHD brain, sometimes adding an extra step to a task makes it like too overwhelming. And the guidebook right now is all online, so when I'm pulling from this deck, if I get one of the Vessels cards, because I don't know those meanings, I have to go online and I have to look at the guidebook, whether I really want to be doing that or not. And so I think sometimes that holds me back from reading with this deck, where if I have the Vessel suit out, I could read with the deck and sort of make a game time call of like, all right, do I want to use the guidebook or not? And sort of like I'm not roped into or tied into doing that. So I think the move is going to be to take out that Vessel suit for now and see how that goes. Because it is, I don't know, I do really love it. I think it's so cool. I truly think that could actually be the only thing that's like making me not use this one. Yeah, all right. Decision made. So this is the Terra Volatile. It is not going into any sort of maybe bin. I didn't really think it would. I just needed to vocalize that, I suppose. Alrighty. Next, the Forahxa Tarot. Now this is one that has actually been in and out of my maybe bin. Is that what I want to call it? I don't know. That's what we're using for now. Quite a few times. And I don't know why. I don't know why. And I feel like this happens with all of the MJ Cool name decks I get. Even though it's like, I like her artwork. I really do. I think it's so awesome. But I don't know what it is. I love this though. The Council of Monarchs. Like how... I think I need to just kind of try using this deck in different ways. This feels like a kind of dark fairy energy to me, which I really appreciate and think is so cool. And it feels very connected to a fuller fae realm than some of my other fairy decks, because we have many different kinds of creatures, I suppose you could say. So I think what is happening with this one is I'm trying to slot it into using as like an everyday pull kind of deck, just for like my morning readings, just for myself, and I just never want to reach for it that way. Where looking through the images now, I think it could be one that is really beneficial to, in more of a spiritual practice kind of way, as a way to connect with that fae realm, especially in the wintertime, just because of the darker colors and more like barrenness to this deck. Like look at this Hierophant card. That is, I mean, that image is like exactly what I feel my spiritual practice is. You know, I don't know. So I think that's what we need to do with this one. And that's, I'm gonna put it on my altar and we're gonna try that. Because I do think it could really work out in that way. But perhaps I'll do an update of sorts with the Forahxa Tarot, because it's not, I'm like very clearly not willing to let go of it, because it's just like keeps going in and out of that maybe bin. That's usually how I know, where it's like, okay, I need to maybe do something different with this one, look at it in a different way. So that is the Forahxa Tarot. All right, next we've got the Pythonic Tarot. Now this is like my number one. I want to spend so much time with this one in 2023 and really get to know it. It's such a beautiful deck. I love this artwork. I love the connection to that divine energy, especially that darker divine energy. And the guidebook, how it really does kind of reference that and go into that. It has such a cool energy to it. But it's one that I also really want to work with the guidebook with it. So this is the deck I actually used to do my own year ahead reading with. So that's one way I plan to connect with this deck, is I will be working with one of these cards every month. I pulled one of these and then an animal card from the upcoming Big Animal Oracle by my friend Andy. I'm gonna leave the suspense there because I don't have the actual deck in just yet. I think it's literally coming today. But I've got these really awesome tiles she made for me as a gift. Okay, this is gonna be the spoiler. She made these cute little tiles for me. They're so awesome. So it's all animals. There's like 100 and something animals. So that's why it is the Big Animal Oracle. But so for every month I pulled one of these cards and one of the animals from that. I'm really excited for that. I think it's gonna be a really cool way to work with that year ahead spread. But yes, sorry for the vague spoiler, but I don't have the cards yet, so it will, but it's slotted into a different season, so it will show up. Not to fret. Look at this 10 of crystals, which is 10 of pentacles. I mean, how cool is this deck? I love it. I really do. So, that is the Pythonic Tarot, which I need to make a bag for because this box is falling apart on me. Alrighty. Next, we've got another newer deck to my collection. It is the Theodore Pavlov Tarot, which I love this bag I made for it. Not to toot my own horn, but I do think it's really cool. I mean, come on. That's neat. Anyway, I love this deck. I did do an unboxing and flip through of this one. Who knows? Maybe I'll even remember to put it up in the cards, along with my list of decks at the bottom. That would be, I mean, I'd be impressed. But I love the kind of vintage Victorian feel to these characters. I love the art style, the pops of color. I really, really like it. I feel like when it comes to that high art feeling kind of deck, this is how I can relate to it, more so than actual, not actual, oh my gosh, I do not mean it in that way, but like, found art, that's what I meant. Whoa. Love that moon card. That might be one of my new favorite moon cards. Yeah, I just think the art on this is so awesome. I love that it came out mass market. I love that I love that US games really seem to work so well with the creator. And from what I think I read on the creator's Instagram, it took longer to come out because the usual printer that US Games uses was not willing to print the nudity that shows up in this deck. So instead of asking the artist to change the deck in that way, they went and found a new printer. Like, I think that's so awesome. I don't know. I just love that little tidbit, because that really would have, I don't know, been such a shame to have to change this artwork in any way. So that is the Theodore Pavlov Tarot. Very excited to get to know this one as well. Whoa, 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 dropping cards everywhere. Alrighty. We are down to our last three. Next, we've got the Tarot of the Hidden Realms. In this, I mean, is this bag not so good? I got this at the farmer's market when I was working there for the library. I realize that sounds crazy, but we set up a stand at the farmer's market like once a month in the summer. You know how it goes. I got that bag there, and I love it. And I also love this deck. This is another one that, I mean, it's very connected to the fairy realm. The artwork is so beautiful on this one. And I really do love doing readings with this one. This is one that I do prefer to kind of use it when I can really sit down with the cards and I really want to do more of an in-depth reading. I tend to use this one more in a spiritual practice kind of way rather than using it for my daily pulls, just because I really want to sit with the guidebook with it. I think the guidebook is really, really awesome. I love the animals that show up. It's just so beautiful. And this is one I was really almost like repelled by for the longest time, because the human-like faces are so realistic and intense in some, but I'm really glad I gave this one the chance. I think it just was a matter of, I don't know, being ready for it, perhaps. Very beautiful. Really love this one. That is the Tarot of the Hidden Realms. I do wish that I could link to a website for this bag, and I would love to get more, but there's no sort of brand name on it, and I don't remember. I think I did even figure out who made it. I don't think she sold them online. I don't know. All right, two more. Next, we've got the Victorian Romantic Tarot. So beautiful. Another one I really want to spend some extra dedicated time with in 2023, because we have just not really bonded yet. I've not put the time into this deck that I would like to. I think I do just sometimes tend to favor other decks over this kind of found art, high art style, but I mean, I really love this deck. Like, I know it's not going anywhere. So I do want to read with it more, and I think it's just about the time of year. I think as we get more into winter, that's when I really lean into this kind of style of deck, I think. Look at this Lover's card. I mean, is that not the best? It's so good. And what I think it is that I think it's because these decks feel more human to me rather than magical. And that's something that I do really want to work bringing more in. Because while I love, when I use tarot, I do want to be kind of transported to this magical world, but that's not what's always helpful, you know? And so I do want to work more with this more kind of human, realistic energy, even though this is not fully realistic, but we get these more, like, these scenes that you could see have, like, actually happened perhaps in some way. I really want to work with that energy more. And I think this is kind of the style that could do that for me. So that is the Victorian Romantic Tarot. Also, I love the Victorian era in general. Just anything to do with that I am fascinated by, so yes. Alrighty, last but not least, we've got the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. Actually, another one from that deck reconnect video that I want to spend some more time with. which I feel like I'm starting to feel in the mood for this deck. I love the openness of it, the spaciousness. I love the art. I mean, and this cardstock is like nothing else. I know it's kind of, some people love it, some people hate it. I love the extra moon cards. I leave those in. I love the Seeker card. I don't know, I think if you have been watching TarotTube for any amount of time, I think you know that the consensus is that this is a special deck. I mean, I think it's award-winning in some way. I don't know. It's really beautiful. I really love this one. We've just not bonded yet, and that's okay. We're gonna put the effort in this year. That's the goal. I think, again, it's also about me being ready to read with this more pip style of deck, which this one is. I love that Three of Swords. I know it's like a very standard Three of Swords, but just something about the way it's painted. So yes, that is the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. And that, I believe, is my last tarot in this winter category. So we will be back hopefully very soon. We have the holidays here / coming up. You know, there's the business around it, but my goal is to really try and be consistent with these videos so that we can get them out there. But next up will be the winter oracles, and then we will move on to the other seasons. But other than that, I hope you are all having a fantastic winter solstice, and I will see you again very soon.